CEO denied in the first class, Vinga and released all to the crew in 10 minutes. The plane was ready to be taken down. The line to board was busy, but most of the passengers were moving badly, busy with their smartphones, cochilando or exchanging some words here and there. However, in the boarding terminal, something was ready to happen that none of us imagined. Marcus Lopes, CEO of M&L Corp., one of the most innovative technology companies in the last decade, approaches the entrance of the plane with an impassible expression. Tall, imposing, with a well-cut suit that highlighted his elegant demeanor, he exalted confidence. Your steps will lightly touch the marble floor of the airport. As soon as he approached, some passages or reconnaissance and found admiring noses. He was not just a successful businessman, he was a symbol of improvement, a black man in a world of predominantly white leaders. But when I checked at the boarding port, what should have been a formality turned into a nightmare. "Senor Lopez, said to the airline, smelling with a nice smile for him. "Is this not your ticket?" He took a pause to look at the computer screen. "Você foi alocado na classe econômica." He franziu to this, but before you could protest, he continued, without perceiving a crescent tension, "Not R. Excuse me, sir, but it seems that there are no more seats available in the first class. We can offer an executive class, but nothing more than this." Marcus did not prove that he was hearing. He thought for a moment, waiting for a plausible explanation, a system error, whatever would explain that slip. But the airman's smile, polite, seemed to be hiding something that he couldn't identify. "You so CEO of M&L Corp., he said as words come with a greater weight than he himself imagined. He was not accustomed to specifying his statements in this way. "Buy a first-class ticket. You are here for a fundamental business meeting. I need privacy. Before we begin, I want to know where you are assisting. Please leave us comments in your city or country. I read all your comments, and I love connecting with our communities around the world. Please take the opportunity to click the download button and activate the button to receive all the news. Enter 1 to give us comments. Your support is essential so that we can achieve more information that we urgently need." The flight attendant, more constrained than uncomfortable, looked for the cabin supervisor who was nearby. He was a Maya-Idad man with an impeccable uniform, but hearing that he directed Marcus had some disdain. "Mr. Lopes, it's a difficult situation. The first class is..." Hesitu, looking for the computer fabric. "Overbooked. The company cannot do anything." Marcus felt a wave of anger rising through his body, but he controlled himself. It was not time to lose composure. The voice for the supervisor and, with a calm voice but charged with indisputable power, spoke, "You need a solution now." But the supervisor's response was more of a cover than an explanation. "Seo señor nos importa. You can wait in the economy. And please don't cause any more fuss." The humiliation was instantaneous, as a simple suggestion of him sitting in the economic class would be punished. Ilolio for the other passengers, all now aware of the exchange of words between the onboard team. Some cochichavam, others or observed with a curious nose. He knew that he was being disrespected, not because of the situation itself, but because the world had not yet learned to deal with his presence of power. It was a moment that something inside Marcus snapped. He felt a crescent heat in his heart, as if all the weight of the world had gathered there. The raid was not only about the seat in the first class, it was about the smell that he received, about the implicit contempt, about the humiliation that no one else seemed to perceive. With a calm, he once again called for the flight attendant and for the supervisor. The tension was palpable. The time seemed to be stretched. "I won't sit in the economic class." Marcus's voice was firm, almost cutting. "I will guarantee that none of you ever work again on an airline that treats your passengers as passengers. The supervisor still tried to follow, but Marcus has already turned around, Camino tied to the airplane entrance and stop. He would not give in. Nothing in the world would matter like the oil or treatment he was receiving. Pegging the cell phone from your bag and with a quick gesture sends a message. 10 minutes later, the airline's onboard systems began to tremble. What no one knew was that Marcus was not just the CEO of M&L Corp. It also has other connections, and those connections are ready to make the airline an example of how simple arrogance can destroy an empire. He was ready to do something that had never been done before, a turn that would leave you wrapped without words and without a career. The passengers begin to feel more dense inside the aircraft. Algem was going to lose head on there. And believe it, it wouldn't be Marcus Lopes. Chapter 2. The Game of Pesses. Marcus didn't sit down. Once again, he stood at the entrance gate of the plane, observing the reaction of 2 crew members and 2 passengers. There was a real restlessness, a tension that no one knew exactly how to break. He didn't want to sit in the economic class. It didn't matter what other people thought. But I also didn't want to leave that situation with a feeling of defeat. When the captain appeared on the portal, Marcus was still there, without moving a muscle. The captain, a tall man with tired eyes from top to bottom, trying to disguise his surprise. He had a smile without grace and began to failure. "Mr. Lopes, I understand your frustration, but we need a quick solution. The situation is becoming complicated." Marcus raised my hand, interrupting him. "Complicated? No, it's not complicated. The problem is simple. I paid for a first-class service. The airline Fallu delivered to me or what I bought. This is not a technical problem, Captain. This is a quest of respect. I demand a solution now." The captain tried to stay calm, but his face was already red. He knew that Marcus was not someone who could jump. What he didn't know was that Marcus wasn't worried about his current situation. In a simple exchange of messages, a series of events was ready to unfold. Marcus's actions are poised to cause an irreversible impact. While he was still standing in the doorway, he thought for a moment with a slight, faceless smile. He knew that he was ready to turn or play in ways that no one could have foreseen. Within minutes, the first big revival will happen. Marcus Piscu's cell phone light. It was a confirmation. The decision was made. The dream for the captain, and with a calculated smile, said just one word: demitted. At that moment, the entire crew of the aircraft lost their effort. Chapter 3. The Collapse. The news was fast. The airline's internal communication system was invaded, and the crew's work records were turned off. A crew member could no longer access the command cabin or give instructions to the aircraft, so the doors are locked. Marcus had done something impossible, something he never expected. The passengers in panic began to murmur, smelling from a cabin to another. The crew was disappearing before their eyes. More or worse, it was still about to turn. Marcus was not more worried than I was. I was not worried about the situation of the aircraft. He was beginning a bigger battle, one that would challenge the trust of corporations on a level that none of us had ever imagined. He knew he wouldn't stop there. O que ele fez, no entanto, foi só o começo. He had transformed his personal frustration into a master's joke. And now, while all eyes were turned towards him, he knew that the future of that airline company, and perhaps many more, would never be the same again. And so it was that the collapse of a giant began. Chapter 4. The Return of the King. The silence in the airplane cabin was deafening. Some passengers tried to understand what had happened. Others murmured in low voices, trying to find explanations for the strange change in climate. Marcus Lopes, however, was calm. His face, impassible, reflected an unwavering confidence. He knew that he had something more to do than a simple dispute over a first-class seat. What he was doing there was a direct message to the corporate world. A message about power, respect, and more importantly, about the weight that a man can feel when he decides not to bend. The captain, who was not in command, seemed lost. Without knowing what to do, he tried to contact the airline control center, but communications have been cut off. Marcus had taken control of everything. There was no more crew, and, as the captain knew, there was no longer an airline capable of responding. The turbulence of chaos was just beginning. To M&L Corp, it was not just a technology company. It was an empire. Under Marcus's leadership, it became one of the two largest conglomerates in the market, with investments in sectors ranging from artificial intelligence to health and urban mobility. Marcus's connections were vast, and he knew he had the power to change anything he wanted. That airline company was just the first of their revolt. With a calculated smile, Marcus approached the aircraft commander, still trying, without success, to come into contact with some company. He thought for the captain, who didn't know he should be aggressive or apologize. "You know, Capitão," Marcus spoke with a ton ameno, como si estivesse giving a lição. "You know that the great ones don't waste time. Eles agem. And when you waste time trying to fix something that is already broken, or the destiny of your career is already sealed, that's it." He took a pause and smelled the air around him. "That's the last time you're going to fly that plane. Oh, any other." The captain didn't say anything. He was in shock. He tried to get up and ask for help, but it was empty. Marcus was no longer giving room for apologies. It was too late. O caos na empresa. While on the ground, the airline systems begin to falter in an alarming manner. Airline controllers will attempt to contact aircraft pilots, but messages are being blocked. Within a few minutes, the plane was flying without the supervision of anyone formally qualified for such. The airline panicked. The executives, without even understanding what was happening, will begin to make frenetic connections. What previously seemed to be a simple system error now turned into a disaster. E o homem por trás disso, Marcus Lopes. While the company's senior executives were trying to understand the magnitude of what was happening, Marcus was in a two-bathroom in the airplane cabin, making a job that would forever change the path of things. He pasted his cell phone and quickly discovered a number. The line was busy, but the logo was busy. He was one of his closest contacts, or CEO of one of the largest technology investment platforms. "Is that your voice, Marcus? Or what is happening? We receive alerts from various systems. Did you invade the systems of our airline?" "Não é só isso. This is not the case. Controlling the flight in which the crew was released and the communications deactivated Forum Airline Company. I'm here, not in the middle of my life, and I have no control over anything, nothing besides me." "Are you, or what?" The voice on the other side of the line was filled with disbelief, almost impossible to prove. "You can't be talking seriously, Marcus. You can't do this." But Marcus, with his characteristic calm, did not hesitate. His mind was working at 1,000 miles per hour, calculating everything that was ahead, knowing that there was nothing more to do. "Eu posso." Our response was direct and cold. "Eu já fiz." "I always know that the corporations credit that they control everything. May you be honored, as we were just pieces in your games. Here I showed that it's not a piece. Eu sou tabuleiro." On the other side of the line, the investment CEO's breathing became heavier. He knew Marcus's power, but he had no idea that he was willing to lift everything to the limit. What was Marcus doing now? He knew that this was not just retaliation for a lost seat. It was something bigger. It was a silent revolution. Marcus looked and looked at the plane's wing, selling the new ones where they could be seen. He felt a strange feeling of total control, a feeling of being, in fact, a key to dismantling everything, or that he depreciated the corporate system. In his eyes, there was a burning charmer. He knew that from now on, nothing would be the same. The corporate clash. At the airline headquarters, the panic was now absolute. Security cameras show that crew members have been removed from their vehicle and will not return. So seat reservations were being altered, or the system was corrupted, and airline executives were powerless. But I didn't know where the plane was, or what Marcus would do next. When the news comes out, a cascade of messages and notifications begin to take over the corporate environment. It was not just the airline in question that was ready to be destroyed. It was an entire network of alliances that Marcus had carefully constructed to ensure that his relationship was of a magnitude never seen before. He was not just attacking a symbol of privilege. He was destroying the idea of a class system that saw people like him as accessories, discarded. Suddenly, I phoned 2 airline executives next to me. He attended quickly. "Or what happened? Or is it stable?" I asked him, already knowing how to answer. The voice of the operator of the air traffic control system was tense, almost desperate. "We don't know, sir. The system was completely compromised. Do not further control the aircraft. The plane is under the control of a person, and it is not our crew." A deadly silence followed, as it is on the other side of the corporate world, M&L Corp. I was beginning to digest the consequences of Marcus's silent rebellion. A message was sent by one of your closest assistants to the major news networks. The CEO of M&L Corp has just taken unprecedented action against airline company Vai muito além disso. At M&L Corp Tower, the reaction was shock, but also something else, of respect. As things were in motion, the story that was being written at that moment would be told by generations. The last year, the plane finally hit, but the impact was not just physical. It was like all the weight of Marcus's decisions fell on the airline company, on the world of business, and above all, on the society that looked to him now, not just as a businessman, but as a revolutionary. When the plane door opened, Marcus emerged with the same calm as always, but now with a different aura. The way he walked, how he looked for the cameras that were already waiting for him. Everything was a reflection that he had not just won that battle, but also that he had rewritten the rules. He knew that this incident would create an earthquake in corporations around the world. From now on, no one else would dare to disrespect someone like him, or anyone else, just because of his appearance or his social class. Marcus Lopes had gone from victim to Vingador, and his message was clear. Respeto não é negociável. Inequality will never again be ignored. Airline XYZ, which had caused initial humiliation, has no time to recover. Given its value in the gold market, its executions are becoming more and more frenetic to try to restore or control. But Marcus's alliances are beyond his understanding. He has the means of destroying an empire. And so it was that the story of a simple first-class seat was transformed into a silent revolution, which restructured a corporate society that could no longer ignore the simple truths that Marcus had imposed. Everyone is equal, and those who rise above 2 others, we can fall faster than we imagine.